Okay, I'd like to welcome you all to the Village of East Dundee's board meeting dated Monday, July 8th, 2019. Catherine, you take the roll.
Trustee Lina?
Here.
Trustee Sella?
Here.
Trustee Wood? Here. Trustee Mahoney? Here. Trustee Andreessen?
Here.
Trustee Coonsey?
I'm here.
President Miller?
Okay, and if,
What?
yeah.
Let's join you in the pledge of allegiance, Jeff.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion, if I could, to appoint me as president pro tem for tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's not your
It's
choice,
the
right?
I didn't expect the second, frankly, but.
Neither did I.
All right. So our next item,
We have a vote.
oh, can we have a vote on it?
Trustee Lina?
Yes.
Trustee Sella?
Yes.
Trustee Wood? Yes. Trustee Mahoney? Yes. Trustee Andreessen?
Sure. Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
All right. And our next item then would be public comment. Anybody have any items or discussion for item agendas only? Okay, seeing none, it'll move us to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion for approval of consent agenda. Item A, motion to approve the regular village board meeting minutes dated May 20th, 2019. Item B, motion to maintain the confidentiality of all closed session minutes previously approved but not released. C, motion to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 133 of the Village of East Dundee Village Code regarding underage possession, sale, and purchase of tobacco and alternative nicotine products.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, thanks. Do we have a vote?
Trustee Lina?
Yes.
Trustee Sella?
Yes.
Trustee Wood? Yes. Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Andreessen?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Okay. We have no old business tonight, so that'll take us directly to new business. And our first one is item A, if I could have a motion. Oh, actually, this is not a motion, actually, yeah, it's not a voting item, is it? This is just an informational, so Administrator Johnson, would you like to run us through it?
Sure.
Thank you.
In your packet, there's a memo regarding a request from Black and Gray Brewing for food trucks. The purpose of the request is twofold. They have had difficulty securing partnerships with local East Dundee businesses. They have had a successful partnership with Duke's Blues and Barbecue, but it is limited to Tuesdays and doesn't include the weekends. So they're looking for temporary food trucks on Saturdays only to be located in the parking lot behind 311 Barrington. Also, what they're trying to do is capitalize on a current trend between breweries and food trucks, and there's a lot of screenshots that have been included in your packet. This is a very real trend, and we're kind of missing the market by not capitalizing on this. It is a growing trend, and it will certainly help Black and Gray out. So we did start this discussion with a broader scope, and after discussion, we came to the idea to limit it to Saturdays behind 311 Barrington, where the food truck would be screened. But we do know this is a real concern with the local businesses. There's probably going to be some opposition. With all of our events, we try to keep it local. We try to support the businesses, but ultimately it doesn't make a lot of sense for the downtown businesses to partner with Black and Gray, because by doing so, they're taking business out of their establishment. So it's not going to happen. The partnerships aren't going to be there. So this is a way to support one of our new businesses who's been very active. They are going to be our Oktoberfest beer vendor. So Teresa Kennedy, the owner of Black and Gray Brewing, is here if you want to ask her any questions, but staff's recommendation is to create some special event license or alter our food truck regulations to allow this on a temporary basis.
So I have a question. Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
Good.
Teresa, sorry. So it would seem to make sense that you're not getting participation from our other existing businesses because really Duke's is the only one that does have a food truck. Is that correct?
He does pop-ups where he sets up inside.
Okay,
So it's not the food truck and there's no food truck in back. He sets up
Got it.
inside the business.
so he comes inside.
Yes.
So then so it's two different things. So then the other businesses in the area weren't interested in doing pop-ups inside as
That is
well?
correct.
Okay. And then how does this affect, say another business saying that we want to have a food truck, and Black and Gray has one, so why can't we say, Z Graphics or
Right.
somebody else? So I think that's one thing I want to try and button up. It definitely seems to make sense for this, and thank Duke, and congratulations, Papa. And,
Yeah, I think we'll have to narrow the scope as much as possible to control the amount of food trucks, but I think the location is key too. We don't want them parked on river, most likely. So if we control it by location, frequency, the type of business that they're partnering with, I think we can limit that scope to a certain degree. And then we'll have to see if there's other interests. I struggle to think of another business that would be in a similar situation. Because the restaurants themselves aren't going to be money food trucks.
right,
Okay?
right,
The retailers, we can just exclude.
right.
And so we can write the ordinance in a way where it's.
Or Calendo's, they don't have a really big menu, so, like, do we allow it for anybody? Or do we just try and have this be a special use specifically for Black and Gray?
And I think in Calendo's, you would, in theory, allow it, but you wouldn't want parking on River or the side street here. So practically, from a practical standpoint, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, what you could do is you could take a look at the use, the brewery use, and change those regulations.
At the end of the day, I still think this is good for the village and all the businesses, because as a practical matter, it helps all of them, Black and Gray is viable. Okay, and, they've all had an opportunity to participate. It doesn't make sense for them, I can't understand why, other than Duke. It didn't really make sense for them to do a pop-up inside there. But if Black and Gray becomes more widely known, more people are coming to town, maybe to go to their establishment, because there is a food truck there, while they're there, they're going to see the other businesses. They're going to be exposed to our downtown area. So, yeah, maybe they lose one sale, each, because somebody's like, oh, I'm going to go to a food truck, as opposed to going to River Street Tavern or a Compound or what have you. And I'll probably be one of them, because I love food trucks. But, but at the end of the day, the people that are coming to town for the goings-on at Black and Gray are people that might not otherwise be coming to town. And they're going to see the Allianz, they're going to see the diamond gyms, they're going to see all the establishments that we have in the area. At the end, I think this is just marketing for the town. I think at the end, this is overall a positive impact on the neighborhood businesses, not a negative impact. To that end, I would park in the back, I'd park right in the front, put them on Burnsy Avenue. Put it right there in the front, let's showcase it.
Well, I think that brings up an actually interesting point, is any food trucks going to want to park in the back? And, that's not very good advertising for them to be behind the building, where nobody can see them. And are you going to be able to attract anybody back there?
Hello, everybody. Just for me to chime in for a second. Sorry for showing up a little late. My daughter, she was a little fussy, so I couldn't get out the house right away. But with me going to different villages or whatever, so I think a great village kind of mimic how they do food trucks is the city of Crystal Lake. So they actually, the city actually has control over food trucks, because for me to go to Crystal Lake, I would have to deal with the village. Like I would have to go, I would have to pay them, and then they would have to come out and inspect in order for me to go to a brewery. And they just don't allow any food truck to come. I think that's maybe something to look into. And then just to piggyback off of being parked in front of Barrington, a lot of the times when when you're dealing with a food truck, a lot of the businesses, they'll say, okay, the food truck can take like the first 2 parking lots, like the first 2 parking spaces, and they'll set up cones, you know, kind of like you guys used to do like at farmers markets or whatever, when I used to come down and say, this is your area, this is only your area. And from what I've seen for me, even dealing with food trucks and me being a vendor, is just to piggyback off of Scott, it brings a lot of people to those towns. Like when I go to Barrington, when I go to Crystal Lake, even when I'm in Chicago, but Chicago's a different beast of its own, people gravitate towards those. I would say it would be a good idea probably just to probably be on Barrington, because you want to have as much exposure for people kind of coming down. Because a lot of people kind of drive down, even when I was looking at a property today in East Dundee and Carpentersville, I was talking with, I'm not going to say who, but they're leaning towards food trucks, because food trucks bring people to communities. And I think it's great, you know, if you guys allow, you know, them an opportunity to have a food truck. I think that's a huge plus for the town, so.
Teresa, have you talked to any food truck vendors, and have you talked about locations and?
I have not,
Okay.
not yet. I didn't want to get deep into that.
Okay, I just didn't know if you had talked to them and gotten any feedback, but maybe following this meeting, if the board wanted to move in that direction, you could talk to them, we can talk about the viability of being in front or behind
Okay.
the business. I just think in front of the business is more visible, but
Right.
will create almost an immediate reaction from the local businesses. So we just want to be prepared that if we are going to do that, we are going to get an immediate reaction.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, no matter what we do, we're gonna get an immediate reaction from our business owners anyway. So if we can do something for the betterment of the town, it's just status quo.
What would the opposition be? I mean, I'm a little,
We've heard this opposition before.
The opposition is, they get mad when somebody comes in, when they're paying bricks and mortars, like paying rent and utilities and expenses and labor and overhead 12 months a year, you know.
black
The
and
argument is,
gray.
we're paying in January when there's nobody down here, you know, these food trucks come in and they can, you know, they cherry pick our best events. But, you know, at the end, we want to showcase the village because it helps all of them.
And I understand that when it comes to an event by event basis, but if this is every Saturday, and Black and Gray is also paying brick and mortar,
That's,
then to me, this is something that Black and Gray is choosing to do above and beyond at their own expense.
essentially, they're just catering in. It just has wheels on it.
I just don't, I guess I'm a little disconnected. I mean, I can certainly see that people are gonna complain regardless, but I think there's enough justification in this with enough history and finances already input to the village that we can kind of have a good response.
Well, and what Duke said and what I've seen personally, he's right. I mean, people flock to those food trucks.
And I don't
They
see
love
any,
them.
I think it's ridiculous to put behind a building. That's
Yeah, that's why I actually like up front.
Right.
Because it would just add to the kind of the fabric of the downtown area.
Well, the fun, the festivity, the, you know, the trend, whatever. But again, the location of that in front of the building regarding the parking spaces it would have to take up would have to be agreed upon with other tenants, I'm assuming.
Well, those are public parking spaces out in front, correct? That's
In
not.
front of 311, I don't believe it is.
We thought,
Oh, okay, so those are,
yes.
They're not ours.
Spaces. So I guess the question would be, you know, maybe we do need to take, to Duke's point, a look at how Crystal Lake is managing it. Is it a special license to the village, or is it a special license to, or is it a special use for Black and Gray specifically?
I'm sorry, what would be primarily food, correct?
It would just be,
You want to weigh in?
Food and then their beer, obviously, in the.
correct. Yep.
I like the idea of food trucks, and I think in front would be better than that.
I just don't think you could benefit, I don't see how having a food truck for any of the other restaurants in town would be more than an additional expense for them. When they have everything that anyone would need within the
They would
building.
be competing with themselves.
So they'd be competing with themselves. So to me, if we limit it to in-town businesses right now as a special use, and give other, I mean, we can always say, yeah, it's open to anybody. No one's gonna do it.
And honestly, I mean, even if a retail place wants to do it, like if my law office wants to do it, if I want to bring a food truck in, let me do it, because it's gonna bring people down the area.
Right.
You know, if I want to park a food truck in front of my building, God bless me.
Town businesses,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Because it's just
don't,
gonna bring people to town and showcase our downtown.
So would it be like a special
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 permit?
you know, special permit?
Something, we'll avoid the
Yeah.
special use because we don't want to go through zoning, but.
Right.
So yeah, some sort of special events license, or probably within the mobile food truck regulations, we'll just create like some sort of temporary food truck permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would that be for a specified period of time during these months, or would you just give it the whole 12-month period?
Yeah, I think we'll have to look at some best practices and come up with some sort of limitations on it. Yeah, I think we want to limit the frequency to a certain extent. I mean, we can always expand it if it proves to be a problem, but you're not gonna, are you gonna want the food trucks, Teresa, in winter or?
I would think not.
Okay, and maybe when you talk to them, you can get more information on, you know, when they choose to operate.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Keep it up where you want. I'd like to weigh in a little bit, and
It
I'm
is.
surprised that I would be the one to send on this, but I don't think it's a good idea. Yeah, I really don't. I can't get behind it. I guess the reason why, I would have to ask you, the first question would be why the need? I mean, you're a brewery. What
Correct.
difference is it gonna make? I mean, you had, when you first came into this town, when you first decided to get into this business, your focus was to be a tap room. It wasn't to be a food provider. If you wanted to go into offering the pub style fare, you obviously would have done that. All of a sudden now, we're being told, well, you're losing out. I don't think you're losing out on anything. I mean, there are other people, other towns that are allowing this, but I think it'll be at their, frankly, their detriment. But when it comes to an event, fine, food trucks are a great thing because you've got a lot of people. There's usually, it's rather chaotic. And with the number of people that an event would likely attract, you're not going to be able to accommodate that many people with the establishments you have in the downtown, especially East Dundee. If we're talking about putting a food truck in East Dundee downtown, that, as opposed to Crystal Lake, there's a world of difference. If you take a look at Crystal Lake Brewery, where they are located in the surrounding area, they can accommodate the nature or the idea of a truck or multiple trucks far better than we can, because it isn't going to take away from a site standpoint anything from the surrounding businesses. It's definitely going to do that here in East Dundee. We don't have the room, and we, frankly, if I was the owner of 311 Barrington, I'd be screaming up the storm. And I can guarantee you, we need to run this one by Donati, because what I would prefer to see happen is a food establishment go to the east of you, and then that would be able to spill over. If you're not able to get the kind of I don't want to say cooperation, but can't build the kind of relationship with Migrate, there's really no surprise there given what they offer.
Right.
It's really not the typical pub
Hey,
fare.
Jeff, can I jump in real quick on that?
Right, okay.
I would,
Hang on. But what I'm wondering is a number of things that, one would be, who would serve this? You're gonna park a truck in the back of 311. Is it gonna be your employees that are gonna run out to the truck when I go in there and have a beer and you're gonna bring it to me? Or is it gonna be up to me to run behind 311, the building, get whatever it is I want, and then bring it back into your establishment? First off. Second question would be, where does that put us with regard to the county and the health board? Especially when it comes to pop-ups. Dude, you've done a pop-up in Black and Gray, that's great. I never knew about that. I didn't even realize what a pop-up was until just today. And I'm thinking there's gotta be some questions that the county would have or that we would have to address in order to be able to accommodate that. There's gotta be rules that surround the ability to do that, and I'm sure the county would want to weigh in. Then, of course, there's any sort of ordinance that are in existence with the county already regarding food trucks and, like I say, the ability to serve. I don't know who would be doing that, what kind of liability it would bring, and I would absolutely want to make sure that the village was not liable for any mishaps with regard to the food truck establishment and Black and Gray. And then maybe the owner of 311, and any, damage that may happen to a public parking lot. There's all kinds of things that could happen with this. If I was an establishment here in downtown, I'd be screaming bloody murder at this idea, I really would. I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
But Jeff, who are they taking business from? They're not taking business from animals. They're not, because it's a completely different cuisine that's being offered.
I know
They're not
that.
taking business from Migrate.
No.
The food truck's not gonna take business from pretty much anybody.
You're right.
Now-
That's a valid point. The problem
Now,
is-
and again, let me address all your points somewhat in order.
Mhm.
You said, you don't understand, you said that they were meant to be a tap room. Well, the rule number one in running a business is staying in business. And what has been shown repeatedly throughout the microbrewery and nanobrewery industry, and again, as I may not driven by a few, is people are more likely to go and patronize a location that also has food. In fact, they might go just because of the food truck and stay in a hamburger. Because and I think, as we read in the packet, their numbers drop dramatically without the food. And part of our obligation as a board is to make sure that the businesses that come to town stay in town, to make sure they stay viable, as long as there's not a substantial detriment to the other businesses in the area or the community as a whole.
Which I don't think you can make that argument, but continue.
Well, I can't make one argument.
That there isn't a detriment to the existing businesses there.
Tell me what it is. I mean, who are they stealing business from? Matter of fact, they're bringing more people to town. So essentially, they're marketing the downtown. They're not taking away business, they're bringing up more business in the long
Well,
run.
that could be, but we don't know that. If we
Yeah,
had,
so-
No,
if we had a taco
Actually,
truck
because I've
in
seen
town,
that
if we had a
elsewhere.
Mexican restaurant in our downtown, there's your argument. If we have an Italian restaurant downtown, and if we have someone coming in who's gonna be offering different pasta dishes out of a truck, which I've seen.
Really, Jeff? You think somebody that would otherwise,
I don't know.
you think
That's
somebody,
not
you
the
think
point.
somebody that's gonna go to Aliano's or sit down dinner is gonna instead go, you know what, give me a $3 calzone out of a truck?
It's
No,
not
it's
the
not
point.
gonna
The
happen.
point
It's
is
not
that-
even practical. I think it's
No,
gonna happen.
no, it isn't the point, but I mean, and it is a competition thing, but what we wanted to try and do, and we've spent a lot of effort doing it, was establish a culinary district downtown where we had a lot of little walkable and quaint restaurants in the downtown that would offer a variety. I mean, look what Aliana's is doing right now with the outdoor patio area there.
But a culinary district
Not-
needs businesses to stay in business.
I
Otherwise, it's
understand
gonna
that.
be called the empty district.
I
because they're all
understand
doing
that,
business.
but I understand that, but the nature of Black and Gray initially was to be a tap room. That was what we understood the business that was coming into town.
But
to
tap
be.
rooms do trucks.
Tap rooms have been doing trucks. What happens when the tap room wants to expand other things, not just the video gambling, but I mean, if they wanted to come in and say, hey, you know what, you guys have got a gun store in town. I can
Jesus.
handle, well, I mean, I know
I
it's
mean,
guns.
the slippery slope is,
No,
it's
exactly.
interesting.
It's valid, it really is.
All right, so just to piggyback off of what you're saying is as far as businesses being right next to each other and people complaining. So I do global brewing in St. Charles. They have businesses and restaurants right next to them, kind of set up similar to what's set up over here, but it's in St. Charles. And a food truck doesn't affect, like every brewery, that's the concept of every brewery, right? So because I do a lot of breweries. The concept of every brewery is to have, you brew your beer in-house, to bring a food truck, so it's a win-win. So you have a party of food, then you have a party of brew, or whatever type of, like, I'm not even into like beer like that, to be honest with you. My beer of choice is old style, but I understand the concept. So but in order for beer to sell, you need to eat something. So that's where the food trucks come into place. And also to piggyback off of what you were saying as far as like, you know, not really knowing if having, you know, with all these different things, like, you know, saying like, if somebody was to have like a gun show or bringing gaming or whatever, you really can't add that and put that together with the brewery. Like, I don't really feel that it would necessarily even be fair to, because even if you go to like a 22-mile radius or even a 15-mile radius and look at the breweries around here, Crystal Lake, Algonquin, wherever you choose to go to, she will be the only brewery, or Black and Gray, would be the only brewery not to have a food truck.
No, I understand, and my
Yeah.
example was absurd, but I'm just saying that, we have to focus on what the businesses are meant to be. By offering this food service in the taproom type of business is getting pretty far away from what it was originally meant to be. I mean, the real draw, the attraction, I think, to that business was what it is, a tap room. And so
But tap rooms do food trucks.
tap rooms can do food trucks.
No, they all do, that's what they stay in business.
But it doesn't, no, well, then they shouldn't be a tap room.
All right, so
You
if we
can't
do
stay
this
in
as
business.
like a situation where the food truck has to come to us and get a permit,
Yeah, that's,
then we could do this on a case by case, and if in 3 months we decide this isn't working out,
No, I
we
get
could just
that,
not
we
issue
should
a
be trying
permit.
to, yeah, right.
exactly.
No, I mean, that's an easy compromise, Scott, I'm not discounting it. What I'm saying though is that do we want to become a downtown of food trucks? Because what's gonna happen, and if we're all concerned and we're all convinced that the success of this business is going to rely on the food truck, and that's what's gonna be here to save it, then chances are what we're gonna see are more of them. And we have to ask ourselves, do we want more of them? Because
So
that,
we'll ask ourselves that, but
yeah, I know,
I think
that's the wrong
I think
question to
that one
ask.
thing that is certain is if you did like a poll of this town, of all the people, they would support food trucks.
I
Because people
agree.
love food
I
trucks.
agree.
It's not
How do
like,
you know that?
because I've talked to people.
As have I, Jeff.
That's a-
I think, Justin, with all due respect, I do think we have a consensus of the board. We'll come back with the draft ordinance that's limited in scope so that we can control it, and then we can always pull it back if it's not working and there's too much opposition. So I
So do we
think
need
we can move
Something
forward.
that
to
we-
board all consensus?
I think we have consensus. We have
Okay.
consensus.
The only other point that I wanted to make, and this is from, following Duke, and another food trucks that I really like, is that food trucks have a huge social media following. And they say, we're gonna be at this place next week, or on Tuesday, or on Thursday, join us. So there's potential for them to bring in a whole other,
Their marketing.
clients and customers of theirs that are gonna see the rest of the downtown in addition to, eating at their truck as well as Black and Gray and maybe, who knows, Mockingbird for an after dinner drink. I don't know.
Can I ask one quick question? In the packet, we saw the various types of food trucks that were being offered and that are around. Would you support a barbecue place coming in?
Yeah.
Would you?
To be honest with you, that's funny that you asked the same question because Skillman's been trying to get in Cartmansville, and his whole spill last year was about DWs. I'm really competitive. I don't know if you, well, back when I used to play sports, so I was really competitive too, and I'm still really competitive now. I like competition, bringing on people. That's what we live for. I personally feel that if you're going to stand by whatever product you're going to be selling, your product should be good, and if it's not good, God bless the next person who's coming along who's going to take your people. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Right on.
I just saw in our packet, like I said, there was probably 4 or 5 examples of different barbecue places.
No, that's totally cool. The more the merrier.
Good enough.
Right on.
Okay, well, we're moving on. This will be item B. And that is the Board of Police Commission rules and regulations for improvement plan. Is this just a
Yeah.
discussion, please?
Thank you. Two members of the police commission are here today, John Tice and Chairman Joe Pena. And for the last 3+ months, they've been working hard with Greg Smith's able colleague, Jason Bessinger, on updating the rules and regs of the police commission.
Wow.
You're losing your crowd.
I was trying to be discreet.
The rules are now complete and they've been approved by the police commission and they're shared with you in tonight's agenda packages. And the cover memo outlines some of the significant, rather substantial changes to the rules for both entry-level testing and selection and promotional testing and selection. And with regard to the recruitment plan, it goes really hand in hand with the commission rules for entry-level testing and selection. It's based on a vision that in the future, the police department be more representative of the people we serve in terms of gender, race, and certainly foreign language. And so we're going to continue to recruit. In fact, we're in recruitment mode right now since the 1st of July. We're going to recruit, of course, the ways that we always have in the past, but in addition to that, find more creative ways to reach out to potential female candidates, people of color, and people with foreign language ability. Have I covered that?
Perfectly, sir.
Do you have questions based on what I wrote or what I said this evening?
I love, number one, I love a lot of the initiatives that you guys took in reading through it, taking the burden of the physical fitness test and the cost of it off the village and placing it on the applicant, and not repeating something that's already available out there through secondary service.
Thank you.
And also, I do like the idea of having more of a police peer group looking at the top 10 applicants and interviewing them prior to the commission. Because I believe before it was just the commission that interviewed, or maybe it was just the chief that interviewed the applicants.
I can't say.
Okay.
This is, I think, a bit of a progressive change.
Yeah.
So the eligibility list is going to be certified and posted, and the order of the candidates will not change, but the top 10 will go through an individual interview with a panel of police personnel, which I plan to have the deputy chief, a sergeant, a full-time and a part-time police officer conduct these interviews. They will generate a written report to the commission on each of them, and that may be useful to the commission in making decisions about conditional offers of employment.
Sure.
And the statute in Illinois says that the commission can choose from among the top 3 applicants. Under home rule, the police commission in East Dundee wants to choose from the top 10. Does that summarize the statute?
Our experience suggests that many people can become proficient at taking a written test. That does not necessarily mean they have interpersonal skills that are required to be a police officer. So the thought process suggests that if we get those top 10, we let the police department take a look, and we also suggested to the chief that human resources have someone involved in the process.
Be with Brad?
Right.
So that there's an overall understanding of what it is we're looking for, and then that report will come to the commission. As we move forward, then we can take those top 10 and see who we feel would be the most efficient for you.
Can I ask, Chief, when I read through it, was the mention or focus on the fitness aspect of it referring to physical fitness?
Yes.
Okay, so mental fitness or?
Oh, no, this is physical fitness.
Right, okay, so I was curious if there had been any conversation or thought on continued fitness. Whereas, I mean, you've got situations where, yeah, in coming in, you know, you can meet certain requirements, but what sort of tests are required 10 years from now?
So actually, most people think that continued testing on emotional and mental fitness is
That's probably, especially in my
But with regard to physical fitness, we talk among personnel a lot about beginning a annual fitness requirement. And you look at me today, you never know it, but I used to take, every year I took the test. It was a requirement, you gotta take it. And it's not punitive. I mean, if people can't pass each element, we set up a fitness regimen for them, that's all, and work with them. We haven't done that here in East Dundee yet. However, just last month, we sent one of our officers to an instructor school so that he can set up such a program for us.
Oh, that's great.
As for the emotional and mental fitness,
That's
Another day.
And so then there's the other, beyond that, there's written tests that you were going to perform for incoming
It's going to be a combination.
leadership?
It's a video enhanced test that it will give us an opportunity to see how individuals can use crucial thinking, common sense, if you will, in making decisions that both can be on a regular basis. And there's a written part that goes along with that process as well.
Awesome.
The leadership assessment is in the promotional process.
In a promotion, okay.
Yeah, we're hoping that next spring perhaps would be a good time for us to do a promotional exam, we hope, but we'll see that as we approach.
I didn't have any questions.
No, I like this change. I mean, I think we've got,
Well done.
I think we've got an excellent culture being created in our police department now. I think we've got an excellent commission, culture being created on the commission as well.
Dynamic.
And I think that this allows both of them the flexibility they need to find us the best people that fit within a community of 3,000 people. Because again, we're not a big community where you can hide somebody. You know, they're gonna be out there and there's not many of us in this town, so there's gonna be a lot of interaction, so it's gonna be very important to find a good fit for our town.
I'll tell you that one of the things that we're running up the flagpole is the amount of training that we're giving. New candidates are interested in a healthy training program. We're able to show that. Thanks to the funding that you've allocated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I would recommend, because you're modifying state law for hiring and promotions using your home rule authority, that the village board tonight entertain a motion to authorize the board of police commissioners to adopt these new rules. These are ultimately the board of police commissioners' rules, but by you passing a motion to authorize them to adopt them, you've cleared any issues that might have been raised.
So the motion would then just be to be willing to adopt them, not necessarily to approve them.
That's correct, because the board of police commissioners themselves adopts the rules, but you are allowing your home rule authority to be used, for instance, to change the rule of 3 under state law to the rule of 10. So you're just setting the table for them to implement.
I would make that motion. I mean, would the wording be,
So the motion could be that you would move to authorize the board of police commissioners to adopt the amended rules using the village's home rule authority.
I would make that motion.
Second.
May I say, I've worked in a community that had the rule of the top 25 under home rule, so this is not unusual.
No, I think it's excessive at all.
Catherine, take roll.
Trustee Lina?
Yes.
Trustee Sella?
Yes.
Trustee Wood?
Yes.
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Kuzima?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. That brings us to item C. We can have a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance creating a specific and limited ride-sharing parking zone at 10 North River Street, which is right in front of Andy's.
And can we have a second?
Second.
Okay, first question, do we mean 110 River?
No.
No. And,
Okay. One time's not right out of
well, no, 110 is the lot at Hill and River, next to Main Street Dental.
Okay.
It's the empty lot, that's 110
We
River.
need that, we need Mandy also, we'll confirm that and make that amendment if necessary.
So these would be marked spots.
Yes, there'll be, there's 4 spaces and 2 signs. Actually, we put the signs up already in anticipation of approval, so sorry to be presumptuous.
Why are we even here?
So, yes, we did. And so basically to eliminate the Ubers and lifts and occasional taxi drivers from stopping on the street and jamming up traffic, we want them in a spot. So
The owner of Banditos is supportive of this and has volunteered that his security staff will help to educate his customers. We issued a number of warning citations over the weekend, which we will do for 2 weeks.
Okay, so,
To those drivers that are not parking in those designated spaces.
I
Is that what you're saying, you'll issue the warnings to?
Warnings to people that are unlawfully parked in the lift and Uber
Oh, got it,
spaces.
okay.
and that would be only after a certain time? like
After 11 o'clock at night.
After 11? Okay, so,
Yeah, that's when they hit the backups along River Street.
and is it that bad be honest with you, I don't patronize the local bars often enough to know.
Well, I've watched the video, and it's really not good at all for vehicles or for the pedestrians on it.
I mean, I like the
Still
idea
most
that
of the
these
stuff
people are,
too, that
you know,
it's,
imbibing and then taking responsibility to know that they've had too much and they're calling an Uber.
Oh, yeah, we're happy about that.
Yeah, right.
Part of the
So-
messaging is to encourage the use of Uber.
Yeah,
and,
we should get it.
Encourage ride sharing.
Okay.
Is that every day? Is that fair hours?
No, it's Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night,
Yeah.
11 at night to 3 in the morning.
So when somebody shows up at 9:30, so you're gonna park there
And they'll have to be out by 11.
Or they'll get ticketed.
and it'd just be better, to just make it all day on Saturday,
Well, but-
Sunday, Friday.
It's not a problem, those other hours, and we're trying to solve the problem. You know, I'm thinking about a video I watched of the pedestrians in and out of cars that are double parked, and it's just not a good situation.
Well,
There's also not a crosswalk, there's not a crosswalk going across the street, so that can be a little dicey sometimes for
It's a
people.
blind corner too.
Yeah.
When you're turning left, blind corner.
The only thing I would say is I think this is a great idea, but at some point we might want to consider like even moving it up to like 10 o'clock.
Well, I'll ask the officers, I'll continue to see.
If need be, to me, right, because again, anything we can do to encourage ride sharing, I think is a good thing.
They're always giving feedback on what's happening over there, and it's good, it's a good thing. We want to make it safer for pedestrians, for their customers, and for the officers.
So how many spaces are right along the east edge there of River, right outside of the addition of Banditos?
Four, there's 4 spaces.
We're not talking about the ones on the west side of the road? Oh, right up front, or,
Yeah,
There's the full parallel.
the parallels.
the pair, okay, right, not the angle ones, okay,
Right.
and there's 4, maybe 6, 4 on the angle ones. Is there anything else? Yes? No? Yeah, we did, it's got a motion, so, okay.
Trustee Lina?
Yes.
Trustee Sella?
Yes.
Trustee Wood? Yes. Trustee Mahoney?
yes.
Trustee Andreessen?
Yes.
Trustee Cruz?
Yes.
That takes us to item D, if we can have a motion.
I make a motion to approve an ordinance making deletions to certain provisions of the National Electric Code applicable in the village of East Dundee.
Second.
I'll second.
All right. We have a little background, perhaps Phil?
No, it's gonna be me.
Oh, no.
Chris is not being.
Chris, yeah.
So, this is an issue that arose at Santa's Village. So we have adopted the 2005 NEC code, which is an international code. There is a 2014 version that we haven't adopted yet, but regardless, we've decided with the code adoption, we would adopt some local amendments, and we have a series of local amendments above and beyond, basically determining at the time that an international code was insufficient in some way, and that there was a certain circumstance specific to East Dundee that would require an additional regulation. And in this case, it's that we encase 480 volts or greater electric service line, private line, in 2 inches of concrete. So we've talked to B&F Tech, who is our outside consulting company that does some of the commercial work, our plumbing work, our electrical work, and specifically the electrical engineer that we use, and he says this is not common to have this regulation, and what it does is create an additional expense. This doesn't have a public impact, it's specifically a private impact that it would have. If, for example, the line was cut by not being protected in concrete, so we'd like to, for the benefit of Santa's Village and other private property owners going forward, remove this local amendment from the ordinance. Any questions?
This one's already on our roads as being required.
It is required, and we are removing the requirement. That's our recommendation.
So it's going to PVC instead of concrete.
No.
It's going to go in PVC instead of housing.
Right.
Or galvanized pipe, so either in metal or PVC. You added the additional requirement that you have to encase it in concrete.
Oh.
It's being proposed to remove the concrete encasure on the pipe.
You know, I'm not sure about this, I guess I would have to talk about this with Chris a little bit, but galvanized underground road over time. I mean, yeah, it's zinc coated, and it's gonna have a resistance to erosion, or corrosion, if you will, but over time it will. So, I mean, I'm actually surprised that PVC was actually the conduit to be used. Casing in concrete, I don't understand what the benefit there is there, so.
I think the benefit is like, I mean, ComEd used like 12,000 volts or higher, and if it's not encased in concrete, someone puts a saw through 12,000 volts, you're gonna have a big disaster.
No, I get that, but I mean, but when you're talking about carrying a load that heavy, you know, and the amount of people that line would serve, there's a different, you know, 420, I mean, I've run 420 in my shop, it's not a big deal, I don't want to say it's a big deal, but, you know, I've got 220 lines in my house, 480 is not all that stronger, much
But
stronger.
are we saying like we would exempt ComEd too from doing it?
No, ComEd is regulated different.
Okay.
So these are just.
No.
Just makes a little more common sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody else?
No, not opposed.
Okay, we have a vote?
Trustee Lina?
Yes.
Trustee Sel?
Yes.
Trustee Wood?
Yes.
Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Andreessen?
Yes.
Trustee Gunsey?
Yes.
Okay, that takes us to item E, one more motion,
Make
please.
a motion to waive formal bids and authorize Centricis to repair centrifuge unit 901 at a cost of $29,660.
Second, wonderful. Okay, this one can go to Phil.
Well, Phil, I just had a question. You kind of outlined what you wanted done, but you didn't really outline, I felt like, why you wanted to forego the bid process. Is it just a cost saving method? I mean, a time saving issue, or?
Well, right now, the centrifuge itself is in part disassembled at the Centricis facility in Kenosha. There are a limited number of facilities that can service this type of equipment. The other one is in central/southern Indiana. And so we elected to go with the closer shop to take a look at it. Plus, they gave us initially a lower price to inspect it and clean it and assess the condition of the unit. So we went with the Centricis option versus another option they went to us.
So in order to get another bid at this point, you have to have the unit sent somewhere else,
Essentially reassembled and then presented somewhere else,
which
correct?
is going to cost more money
Correct.
and time.
Yes.
We have used Centricis in the past, right?
We have.
Yeah.
Just, how about Scott, too, what is our bid level, is it 25? 25, so anything under 25 normally wouldn't require a bid. So, only because of like saving interest of time and so forth, so.
We do get in this situation where there aren't a lot of vendors that do that. So unfortunately, we went with, because of proximity and because we've used them before, and unfortunately, like they take the car apart, they got to put it back together, and they had to take it apart to find out what's wrong.
I do
But
have
that's an excellent.
one question though for you, Phil. 901 is the one we're talking about. How far down the road are we in the same position with 902?
902 was repaired back in 2011, 2012. So there's a chance that
Wasn't 901 as well?
901 was in 902 was last repaired, 902 was last repaired in 2014.
14, okay. So are we looking at the same exact kind of work to be done probably in another 2, 3, 4 years maybe?
You know, it's possible, but right now, as I mentioned in the memo, the sludge processing system isn't, the replacement of it or improvement of the overall system is included in the 5-year capital improvement plan.
Okay.
So that is one aspect of our wastewater treatment plant that we've targeted as needing significant repairs/improvements in the coming 5-year period of time.
And I'm just curious if there would be any sort of savings benefit if we were to have to look at 902 as well at this point. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to start adding to the cost, but if we're only a year or two out, or we're going to be here talking about the same thing, maybe we might save a little money looking at it now. So.
The hope is that this repair will, in conjunction with the other unit that's currently operating, will get us to the point of the capital improvement project in the coming 5-year period.
And then the other question was, we go with Centricis, we tell them, green light it, how long before that 901 is back online?
About 3 weeks.
3 weeks, so
3 weeks, yeah.
902 can handle it?
Yes.
The other one, so
We're,
capacity is not an issue?
we're doing everything we can to make sure it does.
Okay.
We have options, other options that are more costly available to us, which we prefer not to have to go to because they are fairly expensive, even in short-term capacity.
So is this just in the fan that's spinning around? It's not that bladder, right? That, in that centrifuge?
Centrifuge is it's probably longer than this table. It's probably about this large in diameter, and essentially it separates the water from the dewatered sludge. And the sludge is transported out to agricultural fields in central Illinois and then applied. The water is then recycled back into, essentially retreated back into the treating process. So it's a critical part of it. It essentially generates that sludge that's disposed and transported to the land apply.
Which we have to pay to remove still on these days, right?
Pardon? Yes.
Used to be years past, we get them to come and take it for nothing.
Yeah, now we have to pay
Nice.
$20 per ton.
What a deal. Okay. Is there any other comments, questions, anybody? That's a little over the...
It's an expensive repair, certainly. It's in the majority, because of the sensitive, delicate nature of the unit itself and the balancing and precision of the tolerances and measurements. It's a time-consuming effort to replace and rebuild essentially.
Well, thank you for flushing this out.
One thing we haven't touched on is we're going to defer the washing and painting of the clarifier domes. And we're going to see how, as we get towards the end of the fiscal year, what condition the sewer fund is in, because we're not going to be subsidizing the sewer fund at all. So we want to keep all the expense within the sewer fund. So we do have the funds available, but we may have to defer the project that was approved as part of the budget workshop. And that will be Phil's memo, but I wanted to point that out too. Not to take any more time on this, but.
Anybody else?
Trustee Lina?
Yes.
Trustee Sel?
Yes.
Trustee Wood? Yes. Trustee Mahoney?
Yes.
Trustee Andreessen?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
Okay, brings us to our financial reports. The ones lists are in your packet. Go ahead and look at those, ask questions. I'm gonna leave you alone on this. I know. So that takes us to reports. We'll start with the village president pro tem. The only thing I have to ask would be, and Phil, this is in your court, and if Joe were here, he'd probably weigh in, but the Went Street issues that we had a couple of heavy-duty rainstorms in the last couple of weeks. Went and that little arm or outlet of Madison going into the North Gate Manor was a lake. We need to address that. I know that we've got your guys out there every time it rains hard, boy, we're pumping, and it's like, all we're doing is treating the symptoms. So I don't know if that storm line is the issue. The swale that Joe had mentioned a while back was causing us problems. We don't, I mean, we could just, I don't know, open up a channel, bury a line, and then put it right into that detention unit that we have. That we know works. We've had a full test on that 100-year storm about 10 years or so ago. I would like to see us perhaps use that and
We're working on
cut
it.
down on the ducks.
It's an ownership issue with the association that we're working through
Okay.
on a legal basis.
You need
There are
more
some
legal?
hurdles,
Okay.
yes, that we have to
Yes.
get through in the way that the association is defunct,
Okay.
and ownership issues, but it is on our radar and we are working on it. We do not want staff out there pumping on a regular basis.
Right.
That's an inefficient use of our time. So what we're trying to do is get an easement to create the proper drainage, the permanent drainage.
If we were, I mean, are we running into a brick wall with that?
No,
that request?
there's a pathway, we just have to navigate through it because the association wasn't created properly and it wasn't maintained properly. So we will get through this issue, but
Great.
we have to get through the legal issue before we can get through the logistics.
And then, of course, too, the idea if it was gonna be major surgery to accommodate that issue, we might want to look into the larger project of replacing the line I don't know if that swale that is went from, I guess it would be King or even Oak, all the way to Howard, causes problems. Was that insanitary or was that storm, do you recall? I know Joe has mentioned it a couple of times. But if it's not sanitary, then we might want to look into talking about what it might cost to fix that problem at the same time. I don't know if there's, is it sanitary?
We are working on a FEMA grant,
Okay.
and Joe's
The
in the
Lions
process
Park.
of phase 2 for the Lions Park, I think
That's,
that's what you're
well,
referring to.
that's the second one.
Oh.
If you go down.
Oh, there is a sanitary issue.
That's sanitary, and it's not, okay, it's not
Yeah.
storm, because if you take a look at the way the land goes on Went, from King towards Howard, if you're heading east,
Yes.
there's a bend in the road, and it's right there, that little swale that Joe described it, causes a problem, and it causes a backup. If it's sanitary, it's likely only to get worse, and for big time, so we certainly want to look into that, but, what I was thinking was if we were going to try and mitigate the flooding that happens right around that little piece of Madison and Went, what I don't want to do is put in some sort of infrastructure and we have to tear it out and we do the whole road if we need it. So, okay, good.
Yep, that's on our list.
Super.
Okay, that's good.
And there's a whole host of other issues that I'll report.
Please open it up.
tonight. So let's start with Dan. Trustee Sell, what do you got?
Do we know when the speedway's gonna open?
We are working
What is
on,
meeting war?
Greg is working on the deeds and the affidavits of title, and we have a lot of paperwork with regards to the right-of-way transfer from Speedway and Colombo to IDOT, and then the letting can be done. And the timeline, I don't know if you have more information, Greg and I do, but it always seems like we need one more thing. So we're working through all of IDOT's processes. It's a lot.
There's 4 parties. There's the village, there's IDOT, Speedway, and Colombo. And Jennifer and I are doing everything we can to push this onto the other parties to try to move forward. It's a slow process.
We're trying, they did actually think about opening without a signal. They debated it, they were going to have temporary access in there, but ultimately the corporate powers to be said, no, let's sit tight. And basically, let's see if we can get it done this construction season. I feel good about getting it done this construction season.
Really?
I do at this point, but yeah, we'll see.
All right, Trustee Keys. That's it. Great.
No, I see it my time.
I'm gonna need every minute I can get. You didn't give it to me. Kathleen.
Just 2 quick things, with regards to what was handed out to us by Brittany earlier. If we could possibly get a recap from either Greg and or Scott on, in sometime in the future, on what this all means, because I can't even read the cover letter that's handed out. Brittany.
Why, can I ask?
What I gathered from was $500, which was owed to Meadowdale.
500,000.
$500,000 was owed to Meadowdale from Frank Scarpelli, and it looks like he settled for $15K and some change.
We will look closer at it and see if it's relevant to
Do we-
village business. At this point, I don't think it's relevant.
I don't
Okay.
either.
All right, thank you. And then the other thing is, I believe we were talking about having another community events meeting sometime in July. Was that put on the schedule?
Not that I'm aware of, and I'm gone the last 2 weeks, so I think that's why we pushed it to August.
Oh, we did.
I'll look at that.
Okay. Yeah, if you could just email us and let us know.
And where are we on the bids and all that for the sign? You know, we met back in,
Oh, the general,
huh?
for the general village.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not very far on that because of our staffing change, so we're working on it, but we have,
Donation.
Trustee Anderson was asking about the wayfinding signage and the entryway signage we're working on, but it's been installed because we had to change. We lost our staff member who was working on the project, so now we have our staff member in place and we're working on the project again, but we're not there yet.
Okay. Is that all?
That's it.
Okay. Good.
You know what, I just want to let everyone know that I was able to represent the village at the Walnut Heels on the 4th of July for the open box ceremony.
You laid the flower.
Yes, I laid the wreath, and Chris Nelson was there as well. It was a very lovely ceremony, and I'm very glad that we were able to support that cause, and I'm very glad that I was able to represent. So I did see them pack up all the stuff yesterday, so I'd like to be pulled out at about 5 o'clock. We were taking the stuff down about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, but I know that it was well intended, regardless of the heat, because it was hot. But there was a very good turnout, that's all.
And trustee Coonsey, what you got for us?
No.
No report, okay. Jennifer.
I just want to let you know that we do have a facade grant out, in case you missed it in my report, that's being funded by the Dundee Crossings BDD. I've gotten a lot of interest so far, or what I would consider to be a lot of interest, more than one. And so the applications are due on the 15th. I do plan on having a board meeting on July 22nd, as you recall. So I'm hoping to have the grant award on the 22nd if possible, because there is a sense of urgency for at least some of the applicants. And depending on the budget, I may be recommending that we increase the budget if there are good projects, if there are more than one good project. Just because I think there may be more than one project that is shovel ready. So I just want to give you a heads up that that's coming to you, and that we're getting good interest. And of course, we do have Wind Down Wednesday, right, this Wednesday, and another Wind Down Wednesday, the following Wednesday. And on this Friday, the concert in the park.
Next Friday.
Oh, next Friday. And next Friday, concert in the park, so. Okay.
All right. That would lead us to Mr. Smith, comes East Dundee.
No report.
No report, okay, village engineer is not here. Chief, anything?
I'll make this quick. First, I want to reiterate my gratitude, Greg, to your colleague, Jason Geising. Guy's a pleasure to work with. And he simply is always available. And he's hardworking, and I feel like he gave us an outstanding product on the police commission rules. Second and last, on the 4th of July, we had a traffic accident over on Route 25, southbound lanes just north of 72. 3:30 in the afternoon, the vehicle left the roadway and struck a utility pole. The pole was leaning over the street, so it was necessary to close the southbound lanes for a number of hours. The two occupants of the car were injured but not life-threatening, and they were transported. Before it was over, ComEd had sent out 6 different trucks. I'm told it was triple time.
They're there now, yeah.
Now they have a tie to it.
Alcohol is not a factor. Apparently, domestic dispute was.
One of those. Let that be a lesson to you. Stay away from domestic disputes.
That's all I have.
All right, wonderful. And then Director of Public Works, Mr.
No
Cotter.
no report this evening.
Okay, building official is not here, finance is nothing. We are not going into executive session. Great, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you all.
Frustrated.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Don't tell me.